So in today's video, we're going to walk through another investor relations job market statistical report, and we're going to focus on the lens of market cap. Essentially, what we're going to do is analyze the jobs that we've applied to and looked at over the past 3 years and try to figure out who is looking for IR help based on the market cap of the company. So let's start with a summary and look at the health of the investor relations officer job market. And November seems to be really strong. We're seeing a lot of strength. We're going to be close to 30 number one opportunities in this month alone. And fiscal year 25 remains on track to be the best number of opportunities available out of the past 3 years. And we're tracking to a low to mid 20% annual growth rate in terms of opportunities. The key is that the market has shifted towards the mega and large cap versus the small and micro, and mid cap is sort of your bedrock or swing here in the market. And what's interesting is we think that with mid cap is tracking down here in 25. We think it'll probably be flatter up along with mega and large cap. And what we're seeing is probably more IPOs, more pre-IPO companies. And then the concern on the negative side is, are we seeing ghosting or fake jobs? Because we're seeing a lot of repeat posters. People who had posted during the summer, they're posting again now, same job. You would have thought they would have been filled. And then when you get to this idea of the lack of follow through and the idea of this is an anybody but me market, I think it goes back to this idea that the market has shifted towards a mega and large cap focus. When you're dealing with those types of employment structures, they're very buttoned up and they're very particular. It's very hard to get through a process or into a process if there is any sort of red flag on your resume. And so we think this is maybe a major explanation as to why I myself and others may be struggling to find employment in the investor relations market. So some quick structural observations. Again, mid-cap is the sweet spot of the market. The market has shifted over the last 3 years. Originally, it was more focused on small and micro. Now it's really more mega and large. Follow through remains difficult. We think it's this shift to that mega large cap, since that is a more buttoned up, more structured employment process. And then opportunity quality, what we think is happening is there's a mixed bag here going on, and that there's more IPOs, more pre-IPO opportunities, but at the same time, we think there are more ghost and fake jobs in the market. Now, a keynote on our data set in this presentation is that it is a subset of our typical jobs data that we provide. There's a lot of jobs that we get that are confidential, pre-IPO, that may not have an associated market cap. And so that's why the opportunity set we're describing here in the market cap analysis is not exact same as our other data sets. This is a subset. So this is my favorite chart. I call it the heat map of the last 3 years. And what you can see here are the 5 different swim lanes of mega, large, mid, small, and micro. And we see how the market has ebbed and flowed over time. And really what you're seeing is the most drastic changes in the market have been at the micro cap level and at the large cap level. And really going back in 23, large and mega were non-existent in this market. And now you fast forward to 2025, and these are much more significant players in the market. If you look at it in 23, the market was mid, small, micro. And in 2025, the market is mid, large, and mega. And we think that's been a pronounced change here in the market. When you look at it, and you look at it seasonality by quarter and by each of the market cap swim lanes, mid cap is always the largest opportunity set. And what's interesting is the third quarter is typically the seasonally strongest. In 24, that shifted to the fourth quarter. We think that might be some personal issues in our tracking data and partly the presidential election. But we're seeing volume in the mid cap level. Now, in the next few slides, what we're going to do is walk through just opportunities by year and by market cap swim lane. And as you can see, in 25, mid cap is leading the way, but we're seeing strength at mega and large. You look at 24, again, mid cap was really strong, and there was balance across the 4 other market cap swim lanes. And then when you go back to 23, you can see it was very pronounced that mega and large were underperforming relative to small and micro. So let's get into this idea of visualizing this data by year. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with mega, and we'll go through each of the different swim lanes. And you see here is mega really shifted from 23 to 24. We saw a huge jump and it's been consistent in 25. Now, the key caveat here is mega cap companies typically do not look for a number one IR professional in the public sphere. They're typically done in private searches. Now we look at the large cap market. Again, same thing as mega, underperforming in 23, saw a huge jump into 24 and seems to be consistently strong here in 25. Now, mid cap, again, we saw some really awesome growth from 23 to 24, but right now we're down about 13% in 25 year over year. On a 2-year stack, we're up 50%. We think that this is probably that down 12.5 will probably be improvement by the time we end the year. Now, when you look at small cap, you see the opposite. There's sort of maybe this flat. I mean, you started at 25, got to 28, or down back to 24, kind of flat over 2 years, down about 14% year over year. And then you look at micro, this is where you're really seeing the negativity or the weakness, and that the market is down about 30% year over year and on a 2-year stack basis. So now let's look at it by quarter. We're going to do the same thing, each swim lane by quarter, to kind of show you how the jobs have tracked. And what you're seeing is, again, mega cap has been consistent here with pockets of weakness around the presidential election and tariffs in the second quarter of 25. Now you look at large cap, there's been consistent momentum increase starting in the first quarter of 24, peaking in the fourth quarter of 24, and then seeing some strength in the first half of 25, but significant weakness in the second half of 25. Large cap seems to be decelerating in the market. Now you look at mid cap is always the strongest. And you see this trend that, throughout 24, there was strong momentum and strong opportunity. We saw a drop in the first quarter of 25, but then we saw some really sustained momentum in the second and third quarter of 25. Now you look at small cap, again, small cap was strong in 23, peaked in the second quarter of 24 prior to the election, and has been stable to declining ever since. And now you look at the micro cap market, again, this was very stable in 23, strong in 23, strong and stable in 24. And here in 25, we've seen considerable weakness on the micro cap area of the market. So now let's drill down a step further and look at this by a monthly tabulation. Again, you look at mega cap, and where we've seen consistent strength is here in 25. Since May of 25, mega cap has been in the market. You've seen some peaks in March of 24, August of 24, and January of 25. But otherwise, it's been a very muted participation by month in the mega cap swim lane. Now you look at large cap. Large cap has been very consistent, starting in February of 24 with a hiccup in August of 25. But otherwise, it's been between 2 and 4 opportunities a month for nearly 2 years. That says a lot about the large cap market. Now we look at the mid cap market, and again, there's some consistency here. You've got roughly 2 available a month for 3 years, with a peak of 9 and a peak twice here in 25 of 7 each. And so again, this is the most consistent area of the market. And then you look at small cap, again, we see strength or stronger highs in 23, slightly lower highs in 24, and the highs have gone down again in 25. We've seen some weakness here with small cap, and micro cap is very similar in that we were strong in 23, stable to weak in 24, and then 25, the majority of the year has been very weak, and we've seen some recovery here since September, but we still see a lot of weakness in this micro cap part of the market. So with that, thanks for watching. Always here to help.